Hey, so I'm going to show you a few of the most commonly used features in Descript for me. I do a lot of talk to camera video editing, and one thing I always disliked about editing was having to listen back to things over and over again, not just even recordings with my own voice and myself talking, but also other people talking. For me, I find it frustrating listening to something again and again. Not only that, I'm often doing a lot of my editing when the kids are home, therefore it's really hard to concentrate on listening to something because normally they're screaming or they're off singing songs from K-pop Demon Hunters or whatever it might be. So transcript-based editing has been gold for me, and I've found Descript to be the best for the Australian accent, and in particular my talking. Apparently I talk weird. It's the best at picking it up without needing too much editing. It's also really quite user-friendly when it comes to transcript-based editing. So let's have a look. Okay, there we go. I think we are sharing my screen now. Yes, we are. Okay, so this is Descript. When you first open it, it comes up like this. What would you like to do? I usually ignore all of this in the center. This is them trying to get you to use specific bits and pieces. Anyway, have a play around with them if you want. I don't usually do that. I usually go straight up to new project and load a video in. I'm not going to do that now. I've already loaded one in because it can take a little while to upload. So I'm going to use this one here. It's roughly a 6.5-minute video that I recorded covering a few different topics. So sometimes I'll just sit down and cover off a few topics so that I know I've got stuff to edit later. So that's what I did here. So what you'll see when you first open it up is you'll see your video over here, and then it'll take a minute or two, or 3 or 4, depending on how long your video is, but it'll actually transcribe the entire thing here, and it looks just like a bunch of paragraphs. It looks like a Word document over here. So the first thing I'll do is usually have a quick read through just to familiarize myself with what is in that video, especially if it's not one that I've only just recorded, or if it's one from a client, or whatever it might be. So familiarize myself with it a little bit, and sometimes I will manually pull out bits of gold. And I'm not going to do that in this one. In this one, I'm actually going to get Descript to help me a little bit. They do have a number of AI tools. And you've probably seen some of these tools in other programs, but I quite like Descript for these ones. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ask it to have a look through that transcript for me and find some bits that might make good short clips. So along here, I have gone down to AI tools. It might already be selected, it might not, but along the right-hand side here, you'll see AI tools. Go all the way down and to repurpose, and you'll see create clips. Now, you can choose how many clips you want it to create. I always create more than I think I'm going to need. That way it gives me choice. If I select just 3 clips and then I go through them and I only like one of them, I've got to go back and do this again to try and find more. So I always select way more than I think will either be possible or will be needed. Now out of this one, I reckon I'll probably only get 4 or 5. It's only a 6-minute video, and from memory, I did faff around a little bit in it. Then with your clip duration, make it lower than what you need. So make this one higher than what you think you need. Because I find with Descript, it has a tendency to go over. So if you're wanting clips under 60 seconds and you put 60 seconds there, it's not going to limit itself to 60. It'll probably give you some up to 90. So look, I leave it at about 30, and sometimes even that'll give me up to 90. But, there's more of a chance of it sticking to sort of between that 30 to 60 seconds if I've selected 30 seconds. It doesn't go under very often. It usually goes over. You can choose a layout here. I tend not to because I like playing around with the layouts separately, and my layouts folders are a mess, just like all my other folders. But if you're an organized person, you can actually save your frequently used layouts and automatically select them. So you could automatically have this turned into a vertical reel that's already captioned. It might already have, a gradient on it or all sorts of things. There's a bunch of pre-made layouts in there as well. So choose one and work off that as a base if you like. You can choose your topic here or your goal for what kind of content you want it to pull out. I usually leave that blank and let the AI do its thing, whatever it thinks is interesting. But if you do know that you are wanting a particular topic pulled out, then you can put in a bit of a goal in there. So I'm going to hit submit. It's going to have a bit of a think. It comes up with some little smart alecky stuff here, just to its way of thinking it's clever. And then over the side here, it's given me 3. Okay, so it's given me less than I thought. So you've got 3 different clips. You can have a quick read of the rough topics of what it's pulled out here, or if you're like me, you can just click straight into it and see what it's done. So this one here, it has made a 61-second clip. See, it definitely went over that 30 seconds. And it definitely went under the 11 that I said it would. Now, I didn't think we were going to get 11 or 10 or anything out of this. It's only a 6-minute video, and I know I faffed. So it has done all of this for me. So the white text here is what it has chosen as its clip. It has left in some of the video just a little bit before and just a little bit after, in case you want to easily add that back in for context. So if you have a look at this and you go, it's okay, but I actually really would like the sentence before that as well to add some more context to the video, it makes it really easy for you to just select what it has crossed out or ignored and then unignore it, and it adds it back in. So I'm going to leave it ignored for now and see how this video goes. Now I'm just going to play a little bit of it just to see whether I think it's worth it. Again, I've just done all of this. I've gotten it right down into a little clip that I can start to edit without listening to a single darn thing. All I've done is read and click a few buttons. So let's have a quick listen. I've seen some of the most introverted and adorably socially awkward people come alive in front of me. Once they've built that confidence, it can be built. You know why? Cool. I actually don't mind that. And I think if I just have a look at this again, it's a little hard to read when it's crossed out. People think that confidence comes from being extroverted. I could leave that in there for context, but what is going really well at the moment, I find in a lot of social media settings, is actually leaving the initial bit of, or the initial introduction to what you're talking about out and sort of starting almost midway into your conversation or your story. It gives us that open loop, and we want to close open loops, don't we? We want to know what something's about if we've started listening in halfway. It's like walking up to somebody that's mid-conversation and hearing something and going, hang on, what are you talking about? It's that kind of feeling, but on social media. So what we're finding is people might be a little bit more likely to keep listening to find out what it's actually all about. And if the rest does actually tell you that, you don't necessarily need that introductory or context style sentence. So this one kind of does. And I think we could do some of this in captioning and titling as well. So I don't mind. Now, at the end here, I don't actually know what I was saying. It has gotten some of it a little bit weird. So book girl, all right. So let's see what I actually said there and see if we can correct it. And I'll show you how to do a correction. Anyway. Girl? What could go wrong is, I think, what I said there. Yeah, like I said earlier, I talk a bit weird sometimes. So I'm actually going to highlight that bit and I'm going to hit correct. All right. Now, I don't know if I like the fact that it's finished on all right there. So let's have a look at how that's finished. Okay, yeah, no. I should have just looked at the timeline along the bottom here. That's left me a huge gap, and then it's actually started a whole new topic. So I'm going to, just from there, and I'm going to hit delete. What could go wrong? And, all right, cool. There we go. Now, let's look at turning this into an actual reel, because at the moment you'll notice that it is horizontal rather than vertical. And for something that is only a minute long, because I've just deleted that end bit, we are more likely to have this as a YouTube short or a TikTok video or an Instagram reel, Facebook reel, whatever it might be. You are less likely to want to post this one somewhere in a horizontal format. Vertical even works on LinkedIn quite nicely, especially for short stuff. So we're actually going to hit done on that. They are all still there. You can go back to them later. So if you go up to your project, it gives you a list of your compositions. Okay, so the ones that it did, it's actually filed them away in a folder called clips from introverts embraced it. So you can actually go back and edit those again later. At the moment, we are on this one. It shows us that with that little tick. So then I'm going to turn this vertical by going up here and going portrait. And it even gives you a little bit of a hint. Instagram, TikTok likes 916, YouTube likes 16:9. There we go. But we've got these big black borders around it now. Yuck. Click on the picture, go to position, and go fill scene editor. Woohoo! Usually it'll pick it up centered. If it hasn't picked it up centered, just double click on it to go into crop mode, and then you can drag it around until your face is in the frame and then hit done. Okay, so now we have that in a beautiful vertical format. Now we want to fix up the audio a little bit because it was sounding a tiny bit tinny. For that, we can again go to our AI tools and hit Studio Sound. Now, Studio Sound does a few things. You can apply effects manually if you want to go right into, if you know how to play with these, you can play around with your compressor, your limiter, your EQ, your creative, your reverb. You can play around with all of those. It's simply efficient to let the system do it for you. However, if you leave Studio Sound on just turning it on, it can clip words. So especially with somebody like me, I tend to drag out some of my vowels. What it will do is it'll actually clip a little bit too much, and it'll make it seem over-edited and feel a little bit jumpy. So what I tend to do is actually pull that down to somewhere around 70% is where I normally leave it for most people, and then I have a listen. But I find for most videos, somewhere around 70% is quite nice. It doesn't leave it too clipped, but it does boost the audio just a little bit to make it a little bit clearer. If there are any major spikes of, whether it be lows or highs, or whether you've done anything like clap in the middle, you might have been syncing your audio or something like that, your Studio Sound will help fix some of that. So let's just have another quick listen. That's a little bit clearer now. So what it did there is it removed some of the mouth sounds, some of the gross sounds that we get. And it also removed a little bit of background noise, and it boosted the voice just a little bit. Now I found another little text error over here. I said adorably, it's picked it up as adorable. So we're just going to quickly correct that to adorably. There we go. So you can edit this almost like a Word document, but don't just try and click and use and type over or backspace. To edit something, you do actually have to go to correct and then correct it in there. If you try and backspace, it'll actually remove that from the transcript. It'll remove it from the video. And we don't want that. When you're just editing a word that it might have misspelt, it does use American spelling, so keep an eye out for that. So if you start seeing Z's everywhere, you can, as you might have seen when I did that then, if that word was, say, recognize with a Z and I was changing it to an S, you can actually hit correct all, which is fairly self-explanatory. It will correct everything that is spelt the wrong way to the right way. Really handy for business names and things like that as well, where you want them capitalized, but they're not. So I might highlight the whole of No Grey Suits where it would be not capitalized. Capitalize each letter in that because it is a brand name, and hit correct all. And anywhere within the transcript that it has No Grey Suits, it's going to have it capitalized now, which just looks nicer. It looks a little bit more polished. So back to our editing. Now we are going to add captions, and that's why we've put so much effort into reading over this, checking for spelling errors, checking to make sure that the words that I actually said are what's in here, because we are going to caption our videos. I like the karaoke ones, not just because they're called karaoke, but I find them easy to read. I find from a UX perspective, they are easy to understand, easy to follow, and I don't know, I just find it easy. So the karaoke ones tend to just highlight whatever word you're on at the moment. So same with the one down here. The one down here, the karaoke one down here has the words that have already been said in white, the ones that haven't been said in a muted or a transparent white. And again, it's highlighting each word that is currently being said. So I'm going to use that top one there, and it applies it across the entire thing. And then you've got this little bar here where you can start to edit a little bit. So I like to actually, especially for Instagram and Facebook, make this a little bit bigger. Drag it up a bit. It sits too low where it puts it on its own. If you have it down here, quite often all of the text stuff on Insta or Facebook will actually cover it. So you just need to lift it up a bit. Make sure it's not all the way to the edges, pull it back into center, because remember, again, if you're watching it on Insta or something like that, quite often, depending on the view that you're watching it on, there'll be buttons and things along the side, so you've just got to keep an eye on that. I like it quite large because, let's face it, none of us want to be squinting at our phone while we're watching it, and also most of my customers are my age, which means a lot of us are wearing glasses, or if we're not wearing glasses, we're holding a phone all the way out here to be able to read. Now, my brand color is already there, but you can actually check your brand color. It keeps your most recently used colors here. It doesn't necessarily keep your brand colors here. And you can change the blue, which is the highlight, to your color. Now, I don't usually change it away from Roberto, which is the default text. I quite like that font. It works for me. I like the medium. I don't like making it too thin. Again, just ease of looking at it. So the only thing I normally change is actually the highlight color over to my brand color or my client's brand color. And that's pretty much it. Now, if I really wanted to, I could add some B-roll in there and things like that, but I don't really want to. So I'm going to go up to export. Now, naturally, it will usually come up with that menu there, which is where do you want it to go to Descript as a web link at 1080p. Anyone with the link can see it. I want to export it locally. I want to save it to my computer. 1080p, yep, because I'm only going to be using this on Facebook and Insta. Even though this one was recorded in, as you can see, 4K, I'm going to let this bring it down because Instagram or Facebook or whoever I'm uploading it to is only going to compress it anyway. So there's no point sitting there waiting for a 4K file, which is massive, to upload into Instagram just for it to process it right down again. You might as well just have it as 1080p to start with. And that's it. I leave that at high and I hit export. I'm just going to save it into my downloads folder. For now, again, I am really shocking with folders. So that's something that I absolutely can teach people how to make folders really organized and look pretty because I know how. Do I actually follow my own advice? All right, so we can see that we are exporting down here. It does take a minute, and again, the bigger the file or the higher the resolution, the longer that's going to take. And if you are only uploading to social media platforms, you don't need any larger because it's just going to make it small anyway. So then you're going to spend all that time downloading it, then all that time uploading it. No point. All right, now it's downloading, download complete, done. I've just gone into that. I've only had to watch bits and pieces of it. I haven't had to re-listen to it a million times. And I've got a reel ready to go. How good is that? I reckon that's pretty cool. So that is using Descript to clip up a larger video. I will make a few more Descript tutorials as we go, but that's a really nice starting place just to familiarize yourself with some of the features that I find the most handy in there. There's heaps more you can do with it, but I think that is enough for today. As always, take care. Bye.